English philosopher and Enlightenment thinker John Locke probably had no idea that in the late 17th century, his vision would revolutionize a movement. It was enormously influential, it was brilliant, it changed the world. It was, no, not that flimsy capitalism social contract crap, but alphabet blocks. Yes, according to history and Wikipedia, the story goes that John was ticked off that kids hated reading. So he created six-sided wooden blocks with brightly colored letters, just to shut them up and encourage them to read. And over 340 years later, Locke's blocks remain with us. See, even as a young child, I adored my own set of blocks. In my future, reading was bright. But today, for much of society, the future of reading is dim. See, as Kelly Gallagher writes in his book, Read Aside, slowly but surely, reading is dying. As he states, our attitudes toward reading have shifted from excitement to indifference to hostility. And although today we may peruse the web or read a tweet, the greatest threat lies in the lack of what Harvard professor Sven Berkens termed deep reading, which is thoughtful and challenging, sustained reading. Consequently, he notes that without it, we lose the ability to comprehend the people and thus the world all around us. See, my concern is that we've devalued reading. It's no longer seen as fundamental and certainly not enjoyable. So, today, let's first examine how we scorn reading, then the implications, before finally arriving at an alphabet block that might help us lock in some solutions. See, I don't exactly remember the day my parents gave me alphabet blocks, but according to the home camcorder video, I wasted no time picking them up and putting them in my mouth. Soon, those letters morphed into sounds, which became words and then books. However, as David Denby writes in his book, Lit Up, kids today think that books smell like old people. Simply put, to the current generation, reading just isn't cool. Now, an article by the New York Post, published on December 22nd, 2 years ago, explains that a prime cause of our reading crisis is simply that we're getting busier. With everything going on in our lives, we just don't have the time to get out a book when we're only one click away from Instagram or TikTok. And yet, a 2019 study by the Rand Corporation finds that Americans actually have more free time than ever. See, we average more than 5 hours a day, yet we fill it with constant scrolling and screens rather than on a good read. See, reading has lost its luster. As the Right to Read Foundation points out, our entire lives rest upon the building block of reading. But without that building block, all of the others fall. Now, unfortunately, reading is like me doing my homework. See, I know I should, but when it's not an immediate priority, I'm less likely to do it. Or do it well. And that's my second concern. Because in a world full of books, we've barely scratched the surface. See, according to a 2016 Pew Research study, 2 out of every 3 Americans can say that they've read a book in the past year. Sort of. They've read part of a book. But on the bright side, 6 out of every 10 adults do read the news. The bad news is that they only read the headlines. And maybe that's because we don't truly comprehend how much reading can define our lives. See, an SMEI, or Sales and Marketing Executives International article from just over a month ago finds that if you have good reading skills, you're likely to make 2.3 times more money on average than your counterpart with poor reading skills. That's a 230% increase in salary. See, reading is a predictor of success, but it's also a predictor of failure. And maybe that explains why the Department of Justice found an undeniable correlation between lower literacy rates and higher rates of incarceration, dementia, and depression. So much so that our reading crisis has been labeled a national health crisis, physically, socially, and emotionally. So, what's the answer? Well, Locke gave us blocks as inspiration for reading. So, imagine your own block. You can take 5 sides and put whatever letters you want on them. But I ask you for one side, one letter, the letter I, as in, I can do this. Because in a world full of problems out of our reach, this one we can control. And as orator Jane Michelson points out, the answer is threefold. First, I stands for initiate. Start reading. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, reading a book or having one read to you. Begin and grow. Second, implement. Give reading a priority, somewhere, anywhere in your life. See, former New England Patriots wide receiver Malcolm Mitchell decided a few years back that he wanted to get better at reading. So he visited his local Barnes& and Noble. There, he asked a lady who was browsing if she had any book recommendations. And she did a whole lot more than that. She invited him to her women's book club. He went, and he loved it. To Malcolm Mitchell, reading is cool, and it can and should be for us too. And third and finally, influence. Be like the woman at Barnes& and Noble who helped a fellow bibliophile find his love for reading. With just these 3 applications of our one letter, we all together can construct a world of reading and boldly begin our journey through the literary universe, one page at a time.